Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point, AFR Talk. Great to have you in the conversation. 888-589-8840, free for all Friday. Talk about anything you want to talk about. I'm going to grab a couple of sound bites. Let's go down, Rob, if we can, to clip 12, the Krauthammer clip. You know, Charles Krauthammer talking here about what President Obama's agenda is really all about. It's not about what's best for the country. It's about imposing, advancing a socialist utopian vision that he has for America. Now, President Obama is a socialist. Let's cut right to the chase. There's no bones about it. When he talks about the rich paying their fair share, that's a transfer. That's redistribution of wealth. That's Marxism. It's taking from the haves and giving it to the have-nots. That's Marxism. That's socialism. I mean, President Obama has done everything but say from each according to his ability and to each according to his need. And this is what Charles Krauthammer calls him on this clip. Let's listen.
So he has no interest in anything other than raising the level of taxation to sort of pre-Reagan levels so we can support the entitlement state, which is what his presidency is all about. It's a very long view, and I think he's attacking it exactly the right way if you were of his ideology.
So he says, look, this is very intentional on President Obama's part. He's out to create an entitlement state. He's out to create more dependence upon the federal government. That's what he wants to do. That's his target. It's not about reviving the economy. That's not what he's about. He has no interest in the economy. He actually has no interest in creating jobs. He does not want people dependent upon themselves. He does not want people dependent on private sector employment. He wants people dependent on him. Barack the Benevolent, dependent upon the federal government. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz, let's back up to clip 11, Rob, if we can. You know, the Republicans have been saying, look, that's it for tax increases. We're done with all that. But somebody forgot to tell the Democrats, and somebody forgot to tell Barack Obama that. Barack Obama, when he was spiking the football after they passed that fiscal cliff bill, he said, look, we've got to find a way to take more money from the wealthy and more money from corporations. He's already talking about capping deductions for upper income earners, so their tax rate goes up even higher than it was raised in this bill, and he's going to find a way to take more money from corporations. We already have the highest corporate tax rate in the entire world. We're 39-something% for corporate tax, the highest in the world. Nobody's got a higher tax rate than the United States of America has, and Barack Obama's not content with that. He wants to raise it more. And here's Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Listen to what she has to say about moving forward and dealing with budgetary issues down the road. In other words, what she's saying here, we didn't settle anything with the fiscal cliff bill.
What is going to be absolutely essential, and that will be an element, is that whatever we do going forward, the fiscal cliff deal that we passed last night is one step towards a balanced approach. So the Republicans also need to understand that this is now just, we're just going to turn to spending cuts only. Anything we do going forward is going to need to have balance in revenue and spending cuts, so that we don't balance all the pain, and there's still going to be some more pain and towards deficit reduction on the backs of the middle class.
All right, there's Debbie Wasserman Schultz. That's the cheery voice of the Democratic Party speaking. There will be more pain. Sounds like somebody from the Worldwide Wrestling Federation or something like that, whatever that is. Bring the pain. Debbie Wasserman Schultz promising you and me more pain. And notice she says this fiscal cliff bill, the Republicans are out there saying, okay, this stabilizes things. This settles the tax issue. We're not going to talk about tax increases anymore. And she's saying, whoa, hold the phone, Buster. Anything we do going forward has got to involve more tax increases. What we did on Monday is just one step toward a balanced approach. And remember what a balanced approach looks like for the Democrats. $1 in spending cuts for $41 in tax increases. That's President Obama's definition of balance. Now, let's back up to clip 10. This is Rick Santelli on CNBC, and I love this guy. This is the guy that started the Tea Party movement. And here is Rick Santelli. You know, and see, the people that are for fiscal responsibility, we're called lunatics. The left is out there saying that we're on the fringe. These Tea Partiers, they're extremists, they're cuckoo, they're out there in fantasy land, and Rick Santelli begs to differ.
What about the lunatics that spend $16.4 trillion and want another check? Aren't they the crazies, Kelly? Why are the lunatics the people that say overspending and creating too much debt are lunatics? No.
So he says the lunatics, and he's exactly right. The lunatics are the people that have spent $16.4 trillion and want another check, want more money. We'll play a couple of sound bites coming out of the break about this, the debt ceiling limit that we're getting ready to come up against. But let's take some phone calls before we get to that. Let's go to James, Midway Park, North Carolina. James, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hello again, buddy. Look here. Well, somebody has to continue to pay for those close to 500,000 foreign troops we have on American soil. That is a part of the so-called Homeland Security, and they're going to back up the NDAA. They're going to back up the Patriot Act if people don't give up their guns. But there's an oxymoron there. We cannot have a Patriot Act and NDAA and also have the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. Plain and simple. And let's face it, as far as the prison system goes, look, it's just the opposite of the abortion mill. You save killers and you drain money from the people. You kill the babies and you use that to drain the money from the people. You're getting screwed going and coming. Now, and the very same people who are behind most of this financial crisis, who are the ones who are bringing down the world financial system, they're the ones who are behind Barack Obama. And that money that they're talking about taking off the people and giving to Hollywood and all. Look, those are multi-millionaires and trillionaires. What do they need tax money for? What do they need welfare for? That's what I like to know. They don't use food stamps.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting, James, and I appreciate the call. That I heard someone on Conservative Talk Radio yesterday kind of breaking down this fiscal cliff bill and talking about how it actually exempts the wealthiest people in America because it's a wealth tax, an income tax, but not an asset tax. Well, their taxes go up a little bit, but the Warren Buffetts of the world are largely going to skate on this because they're Obama's buddies, so he's looking out for them. Got a big giant carve out. The impact on them is the smallest of anybody in the mix. And I've got a piece here today talking about the fact, and what I've said always is that Barack Obama's policies, every one of them, hurts the little guy. If you look at it carefully, it hurts the little guy. He says he's the guy that's out there for the little guy, but it's the little guy that keeps getting burned by his policies, and it turns out that that's going to be the case with the fiscal relief bill and the taxes that have gone up. 77% of the American people saw a tax hike. Look at your next paycheck, compare it to your last one, 2012. You'll see it. It's right in there. And here's a piece from the Daily Mail in London indicating that workers that make $30,000 a year are going to take a bigger hit on their pay than those that are earning $500,000 a year. When you look at it proportionally, the percentage of income, the percentage of impact is going to be much more on people making $30,000 a year. They're going to get a 1.7% hit on their income. Those that make $500,000 a year are going to see a 1.3% hit. So who gets hit the worst? It's the little guy. That's why I'm telling you, Democrats claim they're for the little guy, but they are not. And the jobs report came out today. It's gloomy, unchanged. The U6 unemployment rate, that's the real unemployment rate. These are people that want full-time work but can't get it. And they're discouraged and they want a job, but they haven't looked for work in the last month because they're so discouraged. They've dropped out 14.4%. That's the real unemployment rate. And the unemployment rate, 7.8%. But if you calculated it based on the labor force participation rate when President Obama took office, it would be 10.7%. That'd be another way to look at it. If you had the same number of people in the labor force as were in it when President Obama took office, the unemployment rate would be 10.7%. The only reason it's 7.8% is all these people dropped out of the workforce altogether, so discouraged they didn't even bother to keep looking for a job. And here's a piece from American Thinker. Obama out there talking about GM being his greatest success story. We saved GM. We bailed out GM. GM has me to thank for their survival. GM auto sales have been worse than any in 2012. GM auto sales were worse than any single one of the 8 years that Bush was in office. Every single year that George Bush was in office, government motors sold more automobiles than they did in 2012. So how does saving GM look today? How'd that bailout work out for everybody? Let's go to David in Fort Smith, Arkansas. David, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian, just listening to the media talk about Sandy Hook, God bless all those people, but the left wants to keep using the term assault rifle and full automatic weaponry and heavy weaponry and high-capacity clips. First of all, AR does not stand for assault rifle. A Bushmaster 223 is not heavy weaponry. It is most certainly not fully automatic. And these guns, they don't hold clips. They hold magazines. This is all the propaganda that the left wants you to buy into, and every time somebody refers to a black sporting rifle, they call it an assault rifle. And that's exactly what they want you to do, is every time the word assault rifle is mentioned, it strikes fear in people's hearts.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. I think you're exactly right, David, that what they've done, again, whoever controls the language is going to control the debate. I mean, they picked the word assault weapon to make it sound bad, to make it sound mean. They're trying to say the Second Amendment does not protect assault weapons. I say exactly the reverse. That's exactly what it protects. That's exactly what it was designed to protect. It was designed to protect the right of the American people to keep and bear arms, the same kind of arms, rifles, assault weapons, military-style weapons that were used to defeat the British. They just used their hunting rifles and used them to defend their independence. And so the Second Amendment, it's exactly designed to protect assault rifles. That's just nothing more than a fancy pants hunting rifle. All right, David, listen, I appreciate the call very much. Thank you for that. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the debt ceiling. Take more of your phone calls, 888-589-8840. I'm going to argue that the Republicans ought to just simply refuse to increase the debt ceiling, have a balanced budget by the end of the day. Focal Point AFR Talk.